Bienvenidos, Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. I'm your host, Stephen Shaw, but you may know me as @Shashaw. And together we are coding compadres, animation amigos, Boolean buddies, and keyframe companions. Yes. Little departure from normal here. And this show is made possible by your support. You can pledge at patreon.com/keyframers or subscribe at twitch.tv/keyframers. Links are available below, and you may even earn a special shout out during the stream. That's right. Okay, let's see. Eric is saying he can't hear David. Just a moment. David, talk. And Eric, will you confirm that you can hear David?
Hey, Eric.
Getting anything? Let us know. Speaking of, okay, there we go. Sorry about that. So if you missed what David said, he was basically just introducing himself. It's cool.
Yeah.
Glad you all are with us, and that we've got some nice things ready for you all tonight. Let's see. First thing, before we get started, I wanted to oh dear, get that recording going. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. A lot of stream stuff to take care of. Before we get into the actual animating, I wanted to take a moment to address a question we got earlier this week on CodePen here on our Avatar loader that we tried on. Jensrot says, hey, I like everything you guys do, and I learned a lot from your live streams and code. Just some questions for the both of you. How long have you guys been programming, and do you guys like doing back-end development? David, how long have you been developing, would you say?
14 hours so far today.
How long over the course of your life have you developed?
Over the course of my life, I would say around 7 or so years. Just a rough estimate. Professionally, maybe a little bit less than that, but overall 7.
That's impressive. What actually got you into development?
That's a very good question. So basically, what launched my career in web development, I went to school for music, for piano. Naturally. And there was an intro to music tech course, which was interesting. But basically, our final project in the class was we had to use the Macs at school in order to make our own marketing websites. And we had to use this program called iWeb, which, if you know what iWeb is, it's sort of like a drag and drop program where you have to just put everything on the page. And it's sort of like Front Page or Dreamweaver or something like that. The thing is that I was lazy. I didn't want to go to campus, and I figured out, like, hey, there must be a way for me to make a web page on my own at home. And so I did all the research, and that's what I did. And my professor said, hey, you should do this as a career. And so that's where I started. Got a job at the college, and the rest is history.
Did you minor in anything development-wise, or
not really?
Just
I took a couple.
Individually?
I took a couple electives on computer science, so I know what a linked list is. That's about it.
That's very interesting. I did not know it had been that recent of a conversion for you.
What about you?
Well, I think at this point I've been developing for about 22 years now.
Wow.
That sounds a bit crazy, but yeah, I started probably around when I was 10 years old. Just discovered the view source in Internet Explorer, probably 4 or 5 at that point, and just started discovering the whole world of web, and made a few very crappy fan sites, and the rest is history, as they say. Have you ever really done any back-end development, David?
Me, yeah, I started off with PHP, so.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know.
I
moved on since then.
Unfortunately, I do quite a bit of PHP still, but I'm trying to migrate away from that. And then Jen also asked, I was also wondering if you guys both do programming as your daily job. Would you say that's what your daily job consists of?
It is, but interestingly enough, and I don't know about Shaw, but for me, my daily job has little to nothing to do with animations. That may change in the future. I'm still in Microsoft, don't worry. But yeah, basically what I do at my day job is not what I do when I'm off of work. So outside work hours, that's when I have fun. That's when I make these code pens, and that's when I get my creative juices flowing.
Yeah, the animation is mostly a creative outlet for you versus a career path yet.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'd say, about 20 to 25% of my main job is animating. Probably 50 to 60% overall is programming, developing websites and everything. Thanks, M. Dixon, in the chat. We are glad you like our work. But yeah, we try to make interesting things here, and sometimes we get to do that during our day jobs, but otherwise we do it here in Keyframers. So David, what exactly is the play here today?
All right, so today we're going to be deviating a little bit, and our goal is to recreate an animation or 2 or 5 from soccerpattern.com. And if you don't know, this site recently won some awards, and we're deviating away from doing dribbles because we saw this site and we were like, this is super cool. Plus today is the first day of the World Cup, where I believe Russia defeated Saudi Arabia, right? 5-0.
Good question.
Something like that. I think that was the score. If I'm wrong, you could correct me in the chat. But anyway, this soccer pattern site is very cool. There's a ton of interactions here, but there's one really unique one that I want to touch on, and it's the scrolly headers thing, where basically the headers skew according to how fast you're scrolling and what direction you're scrolling. Yeah. So it's actually a really, really cool effect.
Nice,
and I really haven't.
Effect.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna see that there's not too much physics in here, and we could do it pretty simply. Well, simply, quote unquote. But yeah, and there's some other stuff, like if you were to, hover over the words, you have this really cool growing text effect, and so Shaw will touch on that. And yeah, some other stuff too, like backgrounds, transitions, and we'll see what we get to today.
Yeah.
Let's see what we could do in 90 minutes.
Now, I will say, is it technically still a dribble because it's soccer related? Does that count?
I'll give you that
one. Sorry, it doesn't get better from your sheets. Just so you know. Okay. So yeah. We'll be recreating this in a CodePen using the amazing CodePen collab mode that we've been using.
And have you seen? There's actually a new feature.
What? A new feature?
Yeah, look at your cursor.
Oh man. Check that out.
It tells you the person and where you are and
yes,
all that cool stuff. That's super awesome.
And this is actually something I worked with Chris Coyer, kind of the founder of CodePen and the CSS Tricks site, to fine tune a little bit, because one of the things as we're working in the stream and we're both working in different places, it's kind of hard to keep track of where your collab partner actually is. So these labels should help you guys see, who's typing what and kind of where we are throughout the stream tonight. So thank you, Chris, for getting those implemented so fast. That was a really nice feature to add.
Yeah.
Okay. So far nothing crazy complex going on. We've got a bunch of pages inside. Thanks, Chris. We've got a bunch of pages inside of a pages container with a heading in each.
Yep, really simple. And each of these pages are 100 viewport height, but they're overlapping. And the way I accomplished that overlapping was negative margin.
Yes, that is beautiful.
Yeah.
So margin top, negative viewport height. Okay, nothing crazy going on.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to do, rather than all of these page 1, page 2s, like the soccerpattern.com, I'd love to get some locations in there. So feel free to shout out in the chat with your favorite city or area, or sports team city, if that's your fancy, and we'll get those plugged in as we get them. So just shout out throughout the thing. Oh, hey, we've already got one for Orlando City. Is that technically the name of Orlando? Everybody
it is.
Just calls it.
Well, what are you? Well, what's Houston again?
Houston, just Houston, Houston town.
You sure? Oh, no, Houston Dynamo. That's right.
Oh yes, the Houston
Dynamos.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what dynamos are, but that's what
it's
you
like
are.
Dynamites, I guess.
I guess.
Eric,
Sweden.
we got Sweden in there for you.
Well, what's Sweden's team, or do they have a few teams?
I don't know. I would assume they have more than one team throughout the entirety of Sweden.
Yeah, we'll just put Sweden.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Keep shouting those out as we go. And before we get too far here, let's just kind of dive into the individual effects. Cobra, I see your Gary, Indiana. We'll add that in there. But let's dive into the kind of individual effects that are happening here. So obviously,
Gary, Indiana has a soccer team?
What's that?
Gary, Indiana has a soccer team?
These don't have to be places with soccer teams, but I'm sure people play soccer in Gary. Come on.
I'm sure. Okay.
Gary loves soccer. So yes, we're looking at the scroll physics kind of effect where we get this text skewing as you go up and down. And then we're also going to try to implement this text outline in addition to this fancy hover effect, and then a nice little transition into a full screen piece. I think that's a good set of goals for tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get on that. Do we have
Gary?
Yeah. Okay.
So
let's go ahead and put
don't
Gary.
be scared. We're going to be using RxJS in order to I know. In order to handle the whole physics effect. And the reason that I really like using RxJS is because it handles streams of values, which in this case is our scroll events. It just makes it a lot easier, believe it or not, to handle these values. And so you could do it in much, much less code. And so for those of you who don't know what an observable is, think of it as a stream of values over time. So let's say you have an array, and your array is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You get all those values at once. An observable is like an array, but a little different in that you get each one of those values over time. So it's pretty much promises on steroids. All right, I think that's the best way to describe it. If it's not clear, feel free to ask questions in the chat. So basically, my plan is we're going to be taking the scroll events, so when we scroll on the body of the document, and we're going to be determining the, what is it? Speed, right? Yeah, we're going to be determining the speed.
Right.
So basically, if you scroll fast down, that's a positive speed. If you scroll up, that's going to be a negative speed. And we're going to be taking that speed and feeding it into a CSS variable where we could do whatever the heck we want with it. And that's one of the coolest things about CSS variables.
Yes. Mostly what we'll be doing with that variable is probably transform skew.
Yeah. In fact, let's give it a little skew right now because it starts off with a skew.
Yeah. While we're doing that, I linked in the chat David's article on animated intro to RxJS that helps break down kind of what observables are and how that whole process kind of works. It's a really great breakdown. We also did an episode of Keyframers on that. If you'd like to go back and check that out for more info. Right now, we have transform skew y, 5 degrees.
Yep, just 5 degrees. All right, so jumping into the JavaScript, I already have loaded, and if you go on CodePen and you do external resource search, and you search for just RxJS, this didn't happen before, but I guess now it's been popular enough that CodePen is now auto-populating that, which is really cool. Yeah, this rxjs.umd.js, and so that's exactly what we want. And the link is right there if you want. I will post it in the chats too. I mean, just in case you like looking at compiled code.
Yes.
I guess. I don't know.
And here's our previous episode on RxJS, where we, or where you, I should say, built the wonderful goat tilting card using RxJS live at CodePen Houston.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to be grabbing this this function called fromEvent, and this does exactly, as it sounds like. We're going to be taking an element, in this case, the document body, or actually the window. Yeah, the window. It's weird how scroll works. Basically, you need to target scroll, like an event listener for scroll on a scroll container. So even if you're scrolling the window, if you put it on the document body or something, that's not going to pick up the scroll events. I need to research that more and figure out why that is. But
hey, Dave Knots, thank you for following.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so const, we're going to do scrolls, and so this is going to be rxjs.fromEvent, and so we're taking it from the window, scroll. And so this is our observable sequence that I was talking about. And so what you're going to get here is basically a time-based array of scroll events. And yeah, so if we subscribe to that, subscribe events, that's console.log each event. And do you have your console tools open?
I do not, but I can pull it up here. All right, it's open.
Yeah, real quick, just scroll on the window and see what happens.
Log skipped. Sorry, this log was too large for our console.
All right. Well, yeah.
Dixon, thank you for following.
Do the browser window. Or the browser console, whatever it's called.
Just a moment here. Okay, we got a lot of events happening.
Yeah, we do. All right, so let's take a look at this because I always forget, and let's figure out what exactly we want to pull from here. I'm guessing target and then scroll something. Basically, I want...
You want the scroll value?
Yeah, the scroll value.
So that'll be scroll Y or scroll top.
I don't see it in the events.
Well, it probably won't be in the actual event. You'll have to read it off of the
oh, you know why? Because
element
it's
itself.
Yeah. Oh, off the
off of window or scrolling
really?
element. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't believe that actually comes through in the event. I'm not seeing it here at least. If I'm wrong on that, or we're wrong on that, chime in on the chat and let us know how to get that.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you forget all these things and not do it in a while, but that's okay. All right. So there's something called pipe, and basically you're taking each one of those emitted events and you're piping it through some operators. And so I'll explain that in a little bit, but we're going to grab map from RxJS.operators. And so we're going to map each of these events to events.source elements, I believe it is, dot scroll y, you said?
It should be scroll y or scroll top. Depending on browser support, you'll have to play around with that. Also looking at what the actual scrolling element is, that differs in older browsers.
Right. So we're going to be using the source element just so that we don't accidentally target some other elements that is being scrolled, or that wherever our mouse is going over.
Okay. I'm getting a nice undefined.
Yeah, beautiful. That's not what we want.
Because you're mapping the E. Yeah.
Hold on. All right. So looking again, we need source elements and scroll something or other. Scroll
something or other. Scroll Y will be.
I don't even see it on here.
So okay, you're targeting document. So document's not going to have it, but window will. Well, why is the target document? I guess document is the scrolling element. So here, just gonna add some fancy listener. Click.
All right, maybe it's just window.scroll y, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it is window.scroll y. So basically, yeah, every time we scroll, we're going to return window.scroll y.
Yeah.
All right, that was silly. But anyway, now if you scroll, you're going to see, all of those.
Yep.
Right, you see all the numbers?
Getting lots of numbers.
Lots of numbers, and that's what we want to work with. And soon we're going to be adding even more numbers.
More numbers.
More numbers.
Get right out of town.
Fantastic. A fantastic amount of numbers. Okay, so that was the map operator. Now, an operator is it's a function that takes each value emitted and it returns a new value. So in this case, we're taking each event, and well, actually, we're not even using the events. We're just using the scroll as just a notification, like, hey, the window scrolled. And then we're returning the window scroll Y position. And so these are going to be numbers emitted representing the vertical scroll position of the window. Boy, that was a mouthful. Okay. Now, if you remember in your high school science classes or your physics classes or whatever, to calculate the speed, we're going to be taking the position, or is it speed or velocity? No, yeah, it's speed. To calculate the speed, we're going to be taking the current scroll Y position and the last scroll Y position, and we're just going to calculate the difference between the two. So basically, if we're going like 0, 10, 20, 30, then that's a constant speed. So 10 minus 0, 20 minus 10, each one of those is 10. So those are going to map to 10, 10, 10, right? And if we increase speed, like go from 30 to 100, then that's 100 minus 30, which is 70. And so that represents we sped up. And so the speed is going to be faster. And so let's map that into a new observable. So const speeds equals, we're going to take scrolls, which is, those numbers, if you remember. And then we're going to pipe those through a scan function, or a scan operator rather. So I want to link you to a very, very, very excellent article written by none other than Sarah Drasner called Understanding the Almighty Reducer. And I think she literally released, oh, well, it was yesterday. She released this yesterday. And I had the honor of reading it and checking out all the cool animations before she put it out. So that was super cool. And the reason that she wrote this article was because it is a, thinking about using a reducer is a very tricky topic, but it is a very important topic because the reducer is a very, very powerful, a powerful method and also a powerful concept in programming, where basically you're taking an accumulated value and another value, and you're creating a new accumulated value, and then lather, rinse, repeat. You keep getting new values, and that basically you're taking a bunch of values and you're reducing it into a single value. And so in this case, we're going to be taking each value and reducing it to their speed. So we're going to be taking the current value and the last value and reducing it to the speed. Hopefully that made sense. Again,
if not, you can study it on this article that goes very in depth on that. Thank you, Sarah, for that lovely article.
All right, so the first argument, if we go back to the JavaScript, is going to be the accumulated value, which in this case is speed. And the second argument is the current value, so whatever is coming through that scroll observable. And to calculate the speed, it's, well, actually, hold on. So we get the current speed. All right, never mind. We're going to be calling this ACC for accumulated, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be returning the current speed, which is something, I don't know, and the current, or the last value. I'll just call that last value, which is something. Okay, so the speed is the value minus the last value. And then we set the last value to the current value. So again, we'll go over this. But let me see what that looks like. Speed. So can you open up the console real quick? I really want to see how this looks.
I got it open.
Before I sound too confident.
Nothing's happening. Are you actually logging it?
Let's see.
Let's see.
Where did I mess up?
I'm getting each is not a function in the console.
Yeah, that's not my
error. All right, I'm still getting the scroll numbers there.
So what I forgot to do was probably
your subscribe at
the
bottom.
Wait a minute, I'm a dummy. I'm not even using scan. Okay, let me add that scan in there. And also scan takes a second argument, which is the initial value. This is the same as array.reduce. So if you read that article, you're going to realize that scan is basically the same thing as array.reduce, and things are going to make much more sense. So to start off, our speed is going to be 0, and our last value is going to be 0, because we assume that we're starting at the very top of the document, which we should, just to make things simple. All right, so now let's log speed and see what happens. All right, cool.
Sorry, I'm breaking things. Yep, we're getting some values there.
And so you could see how much the speed differs from the last value, and that's exactly what we want. So just to explain what's going on, we're keeping track of what the last value was, and we're using that to calculate the current speed. And so if we're scrolling up, you'll see that the speed's negative, right? And if we're scrolling down, the speed's positive. And if you scroll really fast, then the speed, becomes really big. So, yeah. So I'm really glad that that's working, which means that now we could get to CSS variables. There's a bit of lerping going on, but we're going to save that for later. Right now, I really want to see how this looks when we toss these values over into CSS variable land.
Yes.
Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so when we subscribe to these speed values, actually let's just grab the raw speed. And so to do this, we could use our map operator again. So map, then we're going to grab the speed, and then we're just going to return speed. So all we're doing is we're plucking that speed value. And funny enough, there's an operator called pluck that does the exact same thing as I'm doing here, but I just like using map. So console log, just making sure that that's correct. And yeah, so we're getting the speed in the console. Everything is working great. All right, let's add Montreal.
Yep.
Yeah, added Montreal.
Yep, got it.
Awesome. I think.
Thanks for that.
It was Montreal or Vancouver kicked Orlando City's ass yesterday. So that's great. Thanks. But as far as I remember, Montreal is nowhere near Vancouver. So. All right. So let's target the
Rosie,
pages
element. Thank you for those bits. Appreciate that.
All right, L pages. Now, to set a CSS variable, and I think we talked about this in previous episodes, but we're going to talk about it again just in case you missed it. You're going to take the elements, which in this case is L pages, get the style property
set up here with query selector.
Yes, the style property, and then it's set property. And so we're going to set this property. What do we want to call this? Speed? Just speed.
Probably speed.
Yeah. And then we set that to E. Now I'm setting this to the raw number. And this is something that I like to do because it's more easily manipulable, whatever the word is. Because otherwise CSS treats it as a string. And you can't do much with a string in CSS with regards to CSS variables unless I don't know, unless you have Houdini, working in your browser, which I think is only the latest version of Chrome. But I want this to be, compatible with more than one browser. So.
All right, and I've done a little bit of work here in the CSS down on line 32. I've added the skew-y with a little bit of calc happening, where we're taking in that speed variable and then and multiplying it by 1 degree, and that gives us a little bit of what we're looking for. But
it does, yeah. I think
we may need to clamp a little bit here.
Right, yeah.
Because I think it's getting a little too crazy when you go super fast. But that's
right. So let's see what we could do. What if we do like 0.5 degree? Does that help some?
Well, I think we might need to actually clamp the value to a max in the JavaScript, so that the speed never goes above, say, 100 or something.
All right, let's see what I can do.
And then the speed. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm thinking. Okay. What if instead of that, you're gonna laugh. Math.log.
Math.log.
Speed. Yes. That's a little bit better.
What does math.log do?
So
it's the logarithm.
It is the logarithm, and basically, if you imagine a logarithm is the opposite of an exponential curve, right? So you have the exponential curve going up, and a natural logarithm, it starts off fast, but it sort of evens out, right? And so that's what we want. At least that's what I want. I mean, it sort of works.
Yeah. We probably need to multiply that by a few more degrees.
Okay, so we could do that. Or actually, that's something like when it comes to values and like tweaking values for animations, I like putting all the magic numbers in the CSS just so it doesn't become a JavaScript concern. So let's say we multiply this by, I don't know, 10 degrees. Let's go crazy.
Yeah.
No, then we'll get the same problem.
And so now, so it is working on the down scroll, but it is not working on the up scroll, which I assume is a issue with math.log.
Right, because I'm dumb. Hold on.
Do we need like a math.sign? No, because that's gonna keep looping around, not clamp it. I mean, we can always do a math.max. Yeah. Thank you, FR, in the chat saying log is always positive.
Okay. So what if we want that log thing for negative values too? Let's ask him. Okay. My math skills are pretty much rusty at this point, but I will figure this out.
Yeah, I always blank on that math. While you're doing that, I'm gonna focus a little bit on the hover states. So right now, I've got a text shadow in there. If you didn't see me doing that earlier, and this is just a way to create kind of that beautiful outline text. It's not a perfect method, but it does make for a pretty good little outline here. Let's see.
Okay, I will use arctan. Because arctan does what we want, but in a symmetrical way. I think.
I'll believe you.
Maybe it doesn't.
No, it's not working on the down, maybe.
Okay, hold on. No, it totally should. I mean, the inverse tangent, it sort of does that that type of curve. So
yeah, maybe we're just not. Let me up the multiplication there. And
okay, all right, yeah, so now it works. Okay, cool. So now, no matter how, all right, so
hi Miko.
Go ahead and, like, if you do a Google image search for arctan, then you're going to see why I did that.
I don't know if I want to do this live on the air. Arc.
Trust me, it's innocuous.
Am I looking for an image or anything?
Yeah, arctan. So.
Okay. Yeah, you can see nice little rounding here. Right.
So that third image, that's going to be basically what we're aiming for.
Yeah.
So before, it was just a line. Like if you imagine a line going from bottom left to top right, and that's not what we wanted. So instead, this arctan gives us a natural clamping, so to speak. And that natural clamping is at the value 1, which is awesome because we could work with that. Or actually, no, it's not the value 1. It's at the value like
pi
divided by 2, right? Something like that. Yeah, pi divided by 2. And I guess that's a number we could work with. Whatever. We love magic numbers. Use them all the time. It's great. Okay. One problem, though, with this animation, which is the next part that we're going to solve, is that it's it just stops. Like if you stop scrolling, you're going to see that it's very jagged. It's not a smooth animation. And so this is definitely a problem, especially if you're going to be doing this on like a mobile device or something like that. So we want it to be smooth. And one way we accomplished this smoothness was by using lerp. And so that's what we're going to do. So, and this exact technique is in that CSS Tricks article, which honestly I reference myself a lot, even though it's using the older version of RxJS. The techniques are still pretty much the same, but it talks about how to use lerp for these animations. And so I'll explain what lerp is again real quick. LIRP stands for linear interpolation, and actually there's another CSS Tricks article on this by Rachel Smith. And this was basically the article where I learned LIRP, and I really understood LIRP. So,
what don't they have an article for?
I don't know.
A CodePen article. Yeah.
Oh, right. It's a CodePen article. Sorry, I thought it was a CSS Tricks article. But
yeah, this was a super helpful one for me. I'd used LIRP a few times without fully understanding it, and the illustrations here really help drive that home.
Right. Now, I've typically heard LIRP called like a poor man's easing or poor woman's easing, a poor person's easing. But honestly, I think that LIRP is just an awesome easing, just because it's not duration based. Like, you're not saying, okay, do this cubic Bezier easing out over 3 seconds. Instead, you're saying, like, just go smoothly from one point to the other, take your time if you need to, and it ends up being a very, very natural effect. So I love using LIRP. And yeah. In fact, a lot of fancy sites use LIRP too, especially the ones you see on awards, CSSawards.com or whatever it's called, CSS Dev Awards. I forgot.
I'm not familiar.
Anyway, okay, so let's get this LIRPing going.
Joseph in the chat asks what jersey you have on, David?
Oh, this is Orlando City. This is their away jersey from last year.
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing good earlier this year, but now we're sort of on this losing streak. So, but hopefully today, Shaw and I are going to be on a winning streak. See what we could do.
I think we're about there.
Yeah. Okay, so the plan for is we're going to do interval, and we're going to create an animation frame observable. And this has one purpose, and this is to return a tick every animation frame. So we're not going to be using that request animation frame callback, which is sort of an awkward pattern anyway. So const animation frame equals interval 0, and then const animation frame equals RxJS dot schedulers, I believe. Let me see if that's correct. It's capital scheduler. Yeah. All right, so 0 animation frame. All right, so this line of JavaScript, it's an observable that gives us it pretty much gives us a null value. Every single animation frame, which is what we want. So this is pretty much our timer. And the reason we're using this is because we want to create a smooth speed thing. So instead of like the speed going from 0 to 100 instantly, we want this animation frame stream of values to say, no, go smoothly, like 0, 50, 75, 87.5, 90, 3.25, and so on and so on, over to 100. Like, just arrive there really, really slowly. Or not slowly, but smoothly. And that's our goal. And so basically, I'm just copying from my article right now. So smooth speeds equals, we need another operator. And so that's animation frame type. And we're going to be grabbing this with latest from operator is from with latest from speeds. And then we have a function that maps what the value should be returned from both of these observables. And so the first one is the animation frame. and the speed, but we just want the speed in this case. And so let's smooth speeds.subscribe. So now you're going to be seeing something different. Shaw, if you go ahead and open the console, you're going to see the difference here. Yeah. And so we're showing the speed just the same as before, but you'll notice that a lot more events are being passed, right?
It does seem that way, yes.
Yeah, and that's because that's what this with latest from operator is. We're basically going on each animation frame, we're carrying that speed. We're like grabbing the speed, even if it's the same, even if it's unchanged. We're just going to grab it. But now we have to lerp. So
lerp it up.
Lerp it up. Okay. So this is actually going to be, what is this?
Got a fancy little lerp for you. That's the one I normally use.
Current target ease. Okay, let's use this. Actually, let's make this function ease
instead of const. Is there any rhyme or reason to how you'll declare those?
Well, all right, let's see. What do you mean how I'll declare them?
In terms of if you'll do a function as a variable or anything.
Oh, nah. There isn't. I just like being consistent. So, all right. Yeah, let's use Shaw's easing function. So just function ease. Let's see how this looks. I actually haven't tried this, so we're going to be experimenting with it. It's sort of like a chef giving me a special ingredient from a different country and being like, yeah, you'll like it. Don't worry. You won't die. Okay, so
one thing we might need to do is get a higher value number. I think the number of, hey, thank you for following, Joseph. I think the number of decimal places is not translating well to the calc, so that it ends up being not as it ends up being a little jerky. Whereas if we had a higher value number, the it may not be.
Yeah, we'll smooth out the values.
Okay.
So return ease. So basically, we're getting the last speed, which is occurrence, right? Well, here, we'll just do current speed, just to make things consistent. Use current speed, target speed, and you already provided default easing, so yeah. Okay, I mean, that's very decimally.
Let's see.
But that's fine.
Well, thank you for following.
Very, very decimally.
But that feels pretty good.
Yeah,
a little bit smoother.
I'm just thinking because, I do want this to go to 0. And it doesn't look like it's going to 0 exactly.
Right. It may need to have some kind of reset in here because it's currently only triggering when the scroll triggers, and so with the last scroll event, it's still maintaining that speed. So there might be something you need to do in the JS there to encourage it to return to 0.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Turn target speed minus current speed. So current speed plus, or this is basically what we did, right? Times 0.5. See what happens there.
Yeah, still locks into.
Let's see.
I'm getting negative 0.58 as kind of what it's, or 0.58 as what it's settling into.
Right. Yeah, because The speed should go to 0. Oh, you know what? It might be our silly tangents thing.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Thinking.
If anyone knows math, please send help.
No, don't worry.
Anyone else have favorite cities out there? We've still got quite a few we can fill out. So chime in there. It doesn't have to be your current city. It can be your favorite sports team city. Oh, here we go. We got an Ottawa. Thank you for that one.
Canadians here. That's awesome. Or people who really like fanball.
I think
one or the other.
I think because of our stream time, we're a bit stacked with North Americaners overall. I think we do have a few from Brazil that I've seen before, which is very cool. I actually used to have a Brazil soccer jersey that I got in Brazil, but I do not have that anymore. Don't know where that went. Managua. How do you say that?
All right, I'm going to get rid of this arctangent thing here, just because I have a sneaking suspicion that might be messing up our math.
Whoa.
But now it's going all crazy, which is not what we want.
Right. I feel like we could get a similar thing with just a clamping kind of function and clamping it to a max value.
Hold on before you go there. Let's get close. All right, I need to think about this for a minute.
Okay. Well, I'll continue going. Thanks for sharing that in the chat, Val. Some information on detecting when scroll has stopped. I don't know if that'll work specifically.
Well, we'll see. I think this is a very mathy problem moment.
Sorry, everyone. It went dark. Don't worry. Everything is fine. Hey, Tootsie. Thanks for cheering that for us. Appreciate that. Okay. So while David is thinking about math, I'll look at these text effects a little bit more. So what I've been doing is getting a data text attribute on each heading. You could do this with JavaScript or whatever, so you don't have to do it manually on each one, but just duplicating the text there. And then with a after pseudo element, I'm populating that with the data text attribute, and then position absoluting that on top with a nice little transition on hover. So you can actually change transition values on hover states, focus states, class changes, all that kind of stuff. So you can have different easings on hover versus on mouse out, essentially, or you can change the duration. So in this case, I've got a longer transition duration for the transform on hover, so that you get that nice slow kind of move effect like we have here, and then on mouse out, it snaps back into place really quickly. And actually with this, we get color 000. That fills in, and then need a transition color on that. Color 0.2 seconds linear. And that's super easy. These, why don't we do an actual color? See the two. Yeah.
Oh God, I may go crazy. Still thinking. Hold on.
It's all right. It's all right. Take your time. And one of the other things that is nice about the Soccer Patterns site, if you're just joining us, we're recreating soccerpattern.com, at least a few of the effects there. Hence the amazing sports gear from us sporty guys. And we've got a nice little dot pattern. If you can see that on the stream. You can see it on the actual site if you aren't able. But I actually have a semi-pre-made dot pattern here in my SVG encoded for background image pin. This is a handy little tool. I'll share in the chat. If you have an SVG that you want to embed as a background image rather than doing a separate URL or separate request in the browser, you can use this tool to actually encode it inline. So you can see this data image SVG XML. It's kind of like base 64, but it's actually pretty much plain text. You have a few specific little things there, but you can just copy this into your CSS, and you get some right here, and then hey, bro, thank you for following. And oh, subscribing with Twitch Prime. That's great. Yes, if you have Amazon Prime, you can actually subscribe to our channel and support us for free using your Twitch Prime subscription. That helps us out and doesn't cost you anything. So feel free to do that if you feel inclined. So I'm going to add a pseudo element on the body with nothing. And I'll populate that that background image that we copied from before. And that's actually a bit too big, so let me scale it down. The great part about this this encoding is it's really easy to change the values if you decide, say you wanted to change the color of the dots or do anything like that. Actually, Chris has a great article, CSS tricks, probably don't base 64 SVG. Hey, remembered that almost exactly. This is a great article that kind of breaks down what this encoding technique is. Shared in the chat there, giving you the reasons you probably don't need to actually use base 64 encoding, which gives you this weird group of characters and actually inflates the size. Whereas if you use just a straight up kind of URL encode, you get a much nicer string that isn't inflated and is easy to edit should you need. Just like now, I'm able to change the size of the dots easily in the SVG itself. There we go. And I'm going to set pointer events none and the index 999. There we go. Probably do a nice opacity on that as well.
I have an idea, just in case you were wondering if I'm still alive.
I was questioning. Yes. Let's see. That's a nice way to do it. Oh. Yeah, one thing I'm not crazy about on that soccer site is the hover to select interaction. If you just leave your mouse on it long enough, you see that
yeah.
timer counting down. It's a little weird.
Yes.
Not my preferred. Maybe if you were using WebVR, that'd make a little more sense.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Other thing to look at is, doing some patterns for the hover state.
You can get really creative with this. There's a lot of
whoa. Sorry, everyone. That's right, Toasty. That's not the best UX. SVG.
Of course.
Just look at some patterns here. Find me.
All right. And I'll sort of explain what I did here, but let's try this easing thing now and see if we
you need me to scroll here?
Oh my god, it works. It's still a little crazy right now, but it works. Okay, and we're using your lerping function, so that's cool. Let me try adding that math arctangent. I thought it was the source of my problems, but maybe trigonometry is a solution to my problems instead. So
that is a very interesting effect currently.
Okay, my god, hey, it works.
Yeah?
Oh, I am so happy right now. Now let's tweak some things into CSS. And I will definitely explain the heck out of this because it needs explaining. But oh man, that works and that's beautiful.
It is.
Woo! Okay.
Nicely done.
Oh, I'm so relieved. It's like that moment when someone finally scores a damn goal in the 90 minutes you've been watching soccer. That's or football, depending on which part of the world you are in.
Football?
Yeah, we have soccer, the imperial system. We don't have mass transportation. You know, just all these things. Inches. Okay, mention that. Fahrenheit. Soccer. I think we're the only country that really calls it soccer.
I'm okay with soccer.
One thing to note, and this is one of the reasons I love RxJS, is a lot of times when we're doing reactive animations, no matter what you're using, whether it's green sock or you're using a request animation frame or something like that, a lot of developers forget to not update the DOM when values did not change. And that's wasteful. So that means that every single animation frame, you're going to be recreating the DOM again, and that could be potentially costly. And so there's this operator called distinct until changed, which is a long way of, you know, exactly what it sounds like. distinct until changed. And what this says is do not emit a value if it is the same as the last value. That's all. So basically, if nothing changed, don't do anything.
Now, since we have so many many decimal places, does that even change anything?
That's a very good question. So distinct until changed does take a function, and so we could say that we should consider two values equal if they're close enough in value. And let's see, to do that, I'm trying to remember. Again, math. This is a very mathy. Okay, actually, we could do it's a simple subtraction. So A, B, we're going to say that it changed if A, or math.absolute value of A minus B is less than 0.01. And so now we're going to see that it does eventually stop. So if you look at your console, you see how it stops eventually?
That is true.
Yeah. And one good way to improve performance in your app instantly is by deleting your console logs. It's amazing how well that works. But yeah.
Yeah. That's
all right. So
we
have our easing. It looks nice. Yeah. And just because of the way we're scrolling, it's still a little jagged, but it works. I'm trying to see if there's a way to smooth those out, but maybe it's a decimal problem thing.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's probably the issue.
If we add will change. Actually, funny enough, with will change, it's a lot smoother. We're a little bit smoother. It still does the whole jaggedy thing.
Yeah, I'm not seeing much of a difference there.
Right.
Yeah. Any way we can just multiply the value by 10 or so?
Yeah. Let's do that.
And then,
so, all right, so math A10, that's going to give us a very small number, so let's multiply that by 100. Oh, God.
Oh. The
Perfect.
browser. Oh, gosh.
Did I crash your browser?
Maybe. Oh, jeez.
Okay, so maybe not multiply it by 100. Multiply it by 10, which is still going to be a little bit weird.
Let me see if I can come back here. If your the browser's locked up.
Sorry about that.
No pain, no gain, right?
Right.
Is that a sports thing?
Yeah, sure. I believe so.
Oh, jeez. Okay, let me see if I can just kill that tab.
All right. I'm gonna experiment. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna experiment a bit more and see if we could smooth out this jaggediness, because I feel like there should be a way to do that. And actually, it might be a very simple way. By throttling. Okay, let's do that. And this is another thing that just comes right with RxJS, which is, one of the best things about it is that you could basically treat time as a first-class citizen. And so if you use throttle, let's see, there's something called throttle time, where you just pass in a time value, and let's see if it actually takes me there. Okay, fine. We'll just do throttle time. And so what I'm going to do here is instead of reading each and every single scroll, I'm going to only take scrolls every, what do you say, 100 milliseconds, something like that.
Sounds good.
That makes sense though, right? We're instead of capturing every single scroll value, we're
yeah, probably more like 50 or 60. Do it a little more along the frame updates, perhaps. All right, I'm breaking things in the CSS, so it might not be updating.
Oh yeah, you broke stuff.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, I'm just missing a curly brace. There we go. Again, we have a few more city slots down here. If anybody has a city that they like, feel free to toss that over to us. Still getting
some weird stuff.
Very jumpy, yeah.
Yeah, hold on. I have a feeling it's our math tangent thing again. I just keep blaming that, you know.
Okay. Yeah, FR in the chat, talking about math.floor to even the values out. Whoa.
Yeah, all right, let me get rid of this throttle time. Still experimenting with this.
Now that feels much smoother.
Right.
But it's very extreme. But, you know, we can potentially just lower our amount of degrees here.
Yeah. All right, and scrolls dot type. Oh, okay. Let me try something else. Just gonna keep trying stuff until things work. That's usually how these go. I'm gonna put the easing here instead.
Sounds good.
I think that's a little bit better. No, probably not. Nope, not better. And I think it's because, all right, there's this thing where it keeps wanting to go to 0 for whatever reason. So let me just log that. I'm not console logging anywhere else. I am. Well, that's pretty smooth. Actually, you know what's funny?
That feels much better.
Yeah, but when you shrink the window down, like make it less wide, it feels better.
Yeah, so. I assume part of it is browser calculation that's happening. There we go. That's
all right, well, I'll think about that a little more, but we got the basics down, so that's good. We got our hover animation.
Yeah, I'm currently trying to do the kind of pattern animation that happens. If you look around line 95 or so, 91. So I've got in the keyframes just switching background images. And that's supposed to work, right?
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, come on. Yep, that was it. I was using step easing instead of steps. Yeah. Okay. So never mind. I just need some more. Just need
some more steps.
Yeah, a few more background patterns in there. That'll do it. A couple more. What are you working on?
Well, I'm just scrolling up and down trying to figure that part out.
Okay.
But you know what? I'm going to set up the next page. Just setting it up so it's just a plain, simple next page. And yeah, that way we could work on transitioning to that page. And so
for that. Things are getting broken for just a moment.
And I'm just going to put paragraphs in there for now. So that's going to be. This is going to be position fixed. And yeah.
Certainly working.
Yeah. So yeah, let's move this heading to its own thing, just because all headings are pretty much going to be the same. So I'm just going to do a quick little shift here. I don't even know why I nested. Tip for all of you, try not to nest. Do as I say, not as I do, type of thing, right? So nesting just makes things harder to separate, harder to isolate. Harder. And I'm going to nest again. Sorry.
You nester. Should we just toggle that class on body click or on the individual headers?
Which class?
The hidden class.
Yeah, we're just going to toggle it on click. And forgot to get rid of the margin on the headings. But there's an error in the CSS. Maybe no, there's not.
It was probably my my stuff.
Yeah, and so the full page animation is an interesting one as well, because we have that whole background animation thing, which you see in a lot of sites actually. You know what I'm talking about?
The
multicolor background animation. Yeah. Okay, so
bump our skew down a little bit. I'm still getting some really extreme skew values when I go fast. We might need to clamp those down a little bit more.
Okay, bringing back Arctan. Because maybe I don't think it's the source of our problems. I think that the browser is weird about scroll values, which makes sense because browsers are weird. All right, so I used Arctan, but now there's not too much going on there. So
yeah, I lowered that. Sorry.
No worries.
Not getting anything now. Oh, I'm screwing up the JavaScript. So there we go.
All right, now it's less skewy, so that's good enough for now.
Yeah.
That makes me happy for now.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we could research how to tweak that in the future, but for now, it's not really worth worrying about. That's a cool background pattern, the dot pattern.
Yeah, super simple little SVG.
What background color do you have on that?
On what?
The background. Is it just white still?
Yes. Well, it's
okay.
Yeah, it's actually nothing, which we should probably set in case Safari dark mode comes in.
Oh yeah.
Have you been seeing that?
No, I haven't.
Well, I haven't personally tested it, but it's seems to be a big issue. What are you doing? Oh.
You could totally, you know what, I'm going to display, actually, which part are you working on right now?
So I'm currently not working on anything. Nothing in
okay.
the chat. We are working on soccerpattern.com.
I just reduced the opacity.
Some of the animations from there.
All right, cool. I put opacity 2 on there, so yeah.
Okay. And then with that hidden, I'm just doing display none right now. Okay, so my toggle is working. I just added a super simple toggle in the JavaScript at the bottom there.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And before. Yeah, so for each of these before and afters, I'm going to skew these as well, so that they you know, have that cool skew effect. Transform. But because the skew makes them, I guess, cut off, I have to scale them too, I guess. So scale y 0 or 1.2. Skew y. That works.
Oh, and we should probably have a default value for speed up here as 0, because when it first loads, they weren't skewing.
Is the oh, you did display none.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking that off. Don't worry, I'll do opacity 0.2 so that you could still see what's going on behind you while I work on this in the background.
Okay. Anybody else got some cities that they care about? Perhaps loved ones or loved teams?
Do you have loved ones that you care about?
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. No.
Yeah, that's feeling better. Okay. What are you setting the speed on? Oh, the pages container. Is that right?
Yeah, I am. And not the entire document. And the reason for that is because CSS custom properties, they are inherited by default, which means you're going to trigger restyle in whatever you set it to and all of its children. For the most part, this is not a problem. But for some of you who love nesting HTML like many, many, many levels deep, that's going to cause a restyle on all of those elements, which could be performance prohibitive. So you want to be careful about doing that.
Yeah.
AKA, don't do that. Just target the, the most specific elements that that you can. Bezier. Talking my fancy cubic Beziers.
I'm wondering why, even though you have pointer events none, I'm still not able to click and select anything underneath.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird. Here, let's do and before, after.
It might be with heading.
That's not. All right, now can you? Yeah, now you can. You're good. Or I think so. That's super weird.
Yeah. Double check. Okay.
Oh, maybe
it's heading. Heading has pointer events auto on it, so that's part of it.
Oh, okay.
So we can do pointer events. Inherit. Here we go. That's better.
Okay, so what I'm doing to each of these pseudo elements on the the main page, like when you select one of the cities, is I'm just using a simple transition. So that's going to bring both of those pseudo elements in from behind, basically. And so, sorry, real quick, I'm getting rid of pointer events just to test it out. But then we could just add the JavaScript that. So you see what happens when, and maybe I did this in the wrong order, but yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Cool. Does it stagger? I forget if it staggers or not.
There's kind of a stagger, yeah. Yep, it's basically how you have it.
Well, with no stagger, or
with the stagger.
Okay.
Well, however it currently is, that's about how it feels. So I don't know that it needs an actual stagger.
Yeah. All right, cool. So the full page is pretty much done. So what I'm going to do is just quickly add the JavaScript, or unless you want to do it, where it's basically hidden until you click the city.
If you scroll down to the very bottom, we already have that.
You have that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just have to get rid of the. All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Document heading. So.
Right, yeah,
we remove
the text
hidden,
and stuff.
We add hidden. Okay, awesome. So basically, when I click, it turns into the thing, which is awesome. So let me go back to the animation and see how exactly that animates, because I feel like, or I think the title disappears, and then it shows up like after a delay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. So two things are happening. First of all of the titles sort of fade out. And so we could just do that on the pages element. And so we could just add a class there. So let's see, we're moving hidden on full page, but we're going to add hidden on the what's it called? On the pages elements. So L pages. So let's see. So if we go to dot pages, there's a lot of CSS here. It's totally fine. Dot pages. So when it's hidden, I want to do a, well, we only need to do a transition, right? Yes. Transition all, and so we're going to have it be 0.5 seconds, just these out.
Where are you working?
So hidden, opacity 0, transition, transform Y, and we're going to make it go down by 10 viewport height.
Where are you working? I can't.
Oh, I'm working in the CSS, sorry.
Yeah, around what line? I'm actually not getting an indicator for you. Oh, up at the very top. Okay. That makes sense.
It says name, right? Right now I'm on 169. Nice.
Weird. Yeah, it was jumping around. I see you now.
Yeah, I'm right by you. But I don't know if I want to be there. I want to be pages. All right. All right, so I added a CSS variable delay. And so that's just the delay of the headers or headings just shifting down. Mm-hmm. And so when we go to, when we do this dot hidden transition delay, so delay over here. Let's see what happens. No, it still does it immediately.
What are you trying to do?
Basically the full page coming in, I want it to be delayed by 0.5 seconds, which is this delay.
Well, that would apply to the these guys up here.
Yeah. Right. So right here, delay, and so. I forgot to get rid of the hidden on the L pages. So we're just going to do that.
Oh, you're hiding. Okay.
Right. And so that hidden modifier class is not going to immediately hide things. It's just going to start the animation to hide things. And so let's see what happens. Am I doing this wrong?
I don't know that we need the transition on L pages. We might. Let's say. Since that's coming in.
Oh wait.
Yeah, I know on the soccer site it does have the opacity of that, but I think just having the modal come in kind of on top of that would be sufficient. Let me comment out the hidden on L pages and just have the text come up.
All right, now I got it. We really should put that -5 degrees in the variable, but it's fine. All right, so now you see there's a delay, which is totally correct. That's what we want.
Yes.
But we need to also do a sort of transition on the heading. We don't want it to show until, and what does it do? It slides in from the top or something like that?
It just kind of fades in, I think, or pops in. Well, yeah, it's a slide in, and then it's
and it slides in pretty late, which is good, I guess. All right, so or as y negative, I don't know, 500%. Cool. And so we just need to add or after heading. Are you getting used to Sass yet? How do you like it?
Well,
I ask you this like every episode, but I'm curious.
It's all right.
Okay, good enough for me.
Yeah, overall, I'm not crazy about it, but it does fine. Let's see. Do here opacity. Throw. Thanks for tuning in, FR. Glad you joined us. We will have the video available of this later on, so you'll be able to catch back up if you would like. Okay.
Hey, have you ever?
What?
Sorry, go ahead.
So I added an opacity transition in there as well as the visibility, so that kind of gives that smooth initial transition and then a nice transition back when the text is there, or when the modal goes away. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was wondering, what if we start doing like some sort of, I don't know, video courses on all of these techniques that we're talking about? What do you think about that?
You know, I could see a place for that. Stuff like what the heck is happening with this visibility toggle?
Yeah, all of the little stuff that we're doing, and plus all of the other stuff that we don't really have time to show on air, but that we would really love to go in depth into, like this whole reactive animation stuff, the various libraries like splitting and flipping, and all the ENI libraries that we're using.
What library?
Flipping, splitting.
It's not officially out. Shh.
Okay, well, it will be soon.
Oh, you guys are in for a treat on that one. Okay.
So, that text Pride. So I changed the name of the first one from Orlando City to Orlando Pride, because Orlando Pride is the name of our women's team, and currently, and for the past 2 years, our women's team is doing a whole lot better than our men's team. So, in order to prevent embarrassments, I'm switching the name.
All about that. So let's go here. Do SQY degrees. Is it -5 degrees or? Yeah.
I'm going to change the translate Y so that it goes a little bit more off screen. So that's fully off screen,
Yeah. And I think we need a little bit more of a delay there.
Yeah. So this is a fun part of the animation where you have the basic animation down, and then now you're just tweaking. And it's a lot of fun.
I'm not sure why the dot background is actually persisting on the heading. Are you noticing that?
I am not.
So click in to it, and you actually still get the dot heading on top. Oh, okay, I see that. my Z index was getting overwritten. That should do it.
Aha.
Nope. Huh. Weird. Okay. That's feeling really cool. I think I need to tweak this transition way. Yeah, this would go here. Did you just eyeball that that cubic bezier?
Yes. I do everything with my eyeballs.
Okay, cool. I got the text sliding out a little bit quicker. When it's going back to hidden.
Can't math tonight.
Yeah. Hey in the chat, we've got space for 3 more cities here. Anybody got cities they like?
Name some cities.
Don't make me choose.
That looks really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd love. Let's see. Maybe we can do a little bit slower on the ease function here. Where are you actually?
I'll just put it in window.
Where are you actually integrating ease? Okay, so we have. Let me move function up then.
Hey, I don't know what happened, but now the skews are a lot smoother.
Yeah, I adjusted the ease on the ease function.
Ah, what did you do?
So
can I blame you?
Blame me for fixing it? Yes, absolutely may. So yeah, there's the default ease here, which normally I'll leave, as just like 0.1 or something like that.
Oh, but 0.1 was too jagged, right?
Yeah, 0.1 was a little abrupt, and so what we can do is actually set it down here in the ease function. It's in where we're calling the ease function instead, which is a little more kosher, I'd say.
Yeah, because that's feeling real nice right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it still can feel a little sudden when going from a fast speed to nothing.
Yeah, but
that can be.
We could tweak that.
Yeah.
All right, so.
So are all of these just gonna open up Orlando Pride?
Nope, I'm changing that right now. Working on it, I promise. So
okay.
I have a new element, so L city, or .city, but it's L city here. Document.query select door city. And so what we're going to do is, since we have that L target, we are going to change the title of the city. So lcity.inner.html equals L dot, is it data set?
Inner text should work.
Oh, yeah, inner text.
You could use inner text for both, actually.
Ah, right.
And in theory, that'll...
So what is the difference between inner text and inner HTML?
So inner text is actually just the text nodes of the element. So the inner HTML will be kind of what you see actually in the DOM. You know, if you've got bold text in a B tag, all of that will be in there. Yeah, something. I don't know why that's not setting. Okay, here we go.
Now it's setting.
Yeah, l.intertext should be working, but I don't know what's happening there.
But they're all going to be purple because I don't know each of these team colors, and I'm too tired to select them. So they're all Orlando City purple.
That's all right. I love purple.
All right, yeah, it's a very regal color. It's wonderful. So so now when you click on each of these, it's going to give you the city.
Actual city, yeah.
And that's looking nice. Yeah. Cool. Well, what do you think?
I'm just noticing now in my little shout out at the top. Shout out in the chat with your favorite city. Did you change that perchance? Or
I
was
did
that
not.
okay?
I would do no such thing. All right. Interestingly enough, this LPages classlet's ad, you commented that out. So how's it working now?
I actually just did an opacity change, an opacity transition on the overlay. And because the overlay has that background color number FFF, that's what gives you that beautiful kind of transition where they seem to fade out.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, I'm happy with this.
Yeah, I think we're in a pretty good spot here.
Yeah.
And so
we just need more cities. But you know what? I'm just going to remove those.
We can just insert some random ones. But now it is time to enter the part of the show called Keyflections. A quick review of the techniques we use to build this animation. Now is a great time if you have any questions to ask us in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, and remember, if you've enjoyed watching us so far, follow and subscribe here on Twitch or YouTube, or pledge at patreon.com/keyframers to get a special shout out like we've been doing so far.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
All right, so let's go back. For those who are just joining us, let's talk about what we're actually creating here. So, whoa, this site is goofing up on me. It's actually called soccerpattern.com, and I'll share that again in the chat for those of you who need it. And it's got this really cool little scroll effect. As you go up and down, the letters give this nice skew and wiggle, and then when you hover them, you get this nice pattern and kind of expanding effect, which is super cool. And so what we've done is basically recreated that in CodePen here. All right, so why don't you give us a little breakdown of what we're doing to track the scroll, because that's kind of the key component here is tracking the scroll to get these letters moving.
Right. Yeah. So there's a few things going on. The first one is we're doing observables, so we're using RxJS to get all these observables, and each of these observables are just values over time. So this scroll observable, and just by convention, I put a $sign at the end of the observable to let you know it's an observable. The scroll observable, it observes the scroll Y position. So every time we scroll the window, we're going to be getting that scroll Y position. And so that's a value that ranges from 0 to, I don't know, probably 1,000 or 2,000 or however big this is. Animation frame is an observable that emits pretty much nothing, like a null value or something, every single animation frame. But that's going to be important for this anim scrolls observable, which is the animated scrolls. And the way that works is we're using this with latest from operator, taking each one of those requests or those animation frame values and we're grabbing the latest scroll value. So that's what this with latest from is. We're just grabbing the latest one. And that means that if we have a value like 1, 2, 3, 4, those pauses are intentional, then this is going to give you instead 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. So it's going to be grabbing that latest value every single animation frame. Then we're using our lerping so that instead of going from, like, let's say 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, we're going to be easing our way closer and closer to that target value instead. So instead of 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, it's going to be more like 1, 1.5, 1.75, basically getting closer and closer to 2. And that's going to smooth out values. So the easiest way to think of this is we're just smoothing out values so that they're not just very discrete values, but more a continuous, smooth stream of values. So from that, we take each of those values and we're calculating the speed. Now we have to keep track of the last value. So given the current value, which is like, the current speed and the last value, the speed is calculated by whatever value comes from this scroll minus the last value. So for instance, if we were at scroll position 50 and now we're at scroll position 100, then 100 minus 50 is 50, and that's our speed. So a positive speed means that we're scrolling down. A negative speed means that we're scrolling up. And these are, important to grab. So then we're mapping each of these values, grabbing only the speed. And we could do just the speed, but we wanted to sort of clamp it. And a natural way of doing that is using arctangents. That just basically limits the values between pi divided by 2 and negative pi divided by 2. It just clamps the values. That's all you need to know. You could use math.floor or math.ceil, but you'll sort of get a hard stop. And we wanted a nice, smooth mathematic function for doing that. And, maybe we'll go over this in more detail in an advanced course. If we ever decide to do those, we'll see. And I'm using distinct until changed just as a performance benefit, because this is going to make sure that if two values are super, super, super close, then we could consider them to be the same value. And we could say, don't bother emitting a new value. The one that I have already is close enough. And so finally, each of these speed values, we subscribe and we set as a CSS variable on the LPages element where we use for the skew value. Phew. And that's it.
That's quite a lot. Is this the most JavaScript we've done on?
Well, the funny thing is that all this JavaScript, which honestly, it's only like what, 40, 50 lines. If you were to try to do this without using RxJS or anything, you could easily get into 100, 200 lines, if not more, because there's a lot of things going on. First of all, you're doing a request animation frame, and you're tracking the scroll values, and you're doing the smooth easing. And so for that, maybe you'll just give up and pull in GSAP, which a lot of people do. Honestly, okay, I think GSAP's cool, but I see a lot of people pulling in the entire Greenstock library just because they're too lazy to just use an easing function. And they're like, oh, well, hey, GSAP handles easing for me pretty easily. And so even if they're not using the rest of GSAP's features, like HTML or SVG manipulation, they're going to use it just for easing, which I guess is cool, but you're adding 100 kilobytes to your bundle, which is not cool. Anyway, sorry, done with that.
All right. So yeah, we're getting that speed value and setting it on as a CSS variable. And then up here, let's look at the HTML really quick. We've got pages page heading. The CSS variable is going to be on this pages container, and we want the headings to skew. So that's what we have here is the transform skew. We've got a default of -5 degrees, and then with calc we're adding in 10 degrees times the speed. So if the speed is negative, it'll be skewing negatively up to well 10 times 10 degrees, and then if the speed is positive, it'll be adding times 10 degrees of the speed, and that's how we get that nice kind of skew effect with the scroll. Then the outline text is basically just thanks to text shadow, just setting an equally offset text shadow in each direction. And then if you noticed earlier, we have a data text attribute in the HTML and for each heading. And this basically just duplicates the text that's in there. Ideally, you do that and set that with JavaScript or in your CMS or something like that. But then with the pseudo element, we have the content attribute data text, which basically duplicates that text. We overlay it with position absolute on top, but we give it no text shadow because we don't want that same outline on it. And then we have a transition on it that's going to give us this nice kind of pull out effect of the text as you hover over it. And we're changing the transition duration on hover so that it's really, really slow transition over 6 seconds while you're hovering. But when you hover off, it snaps back into place really quick. So that's super cool. And there's a little bit of opacity happening there, just so it's a little bit smoother of a transition. And then that cool pattern rotation effect is set down here around line 107, where we're setting the color to transparent and then using our friend background clip like we used in the ocean episode, the ocean animation episode. And we have an animation here called pattern BG with just an easing of steps 1. So it's just hitting hard stops in between each keyframe, or a hard transition in between each keyframe, looping infinitely. And then each keyframe, we're setting a different background image. So a lot of CSS properties you can use in animations or transitions or things like that. The trick is just knowing that not all values are going to transition smoothly. So for instance, it's not like morphing these backgrounds from one to the other. It's just at the 50% mark in between these two keyframes. It's just changing them out. So you get that nice kind of classic MTV pattern change effect.
Yeah. And I just can't stop scrolling.
It is very fun. You want to walk us through what we did for full page?
Yeah, sure. So full page, that was actually the easier of all the animations we've done. Basically, when you click on a heading, you get this full page animation. And the background animation, those are 2 pseudo elements. So what I did is I set each of those heights to 150%. I centered them by top -25%, and those are just being translated in. So translate Y, -100% or 100%, depending on whether it's coming from the bottom or the top. And then we just have some easings and transition delays in order to choreograph everything. And Shaw did some of that too. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for that.
Yeah.
Oh, and we have the opacity animating too, because we have 3 backgrounds going on. We have the white background, the black background, and the purple background. So the white background, it stays stationary. That's just going to fade in, which is going to give the illusion of everything else fading out, which is exactly what we want. And then the other 2 just come in after a delay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Making a couple tweaks here while we go. And I got the pattern coming off of that. So it feels a little bit better without having that pattern overlaying on it. And that pattern, again, is just a simple pseudo element on the body that's position fixed with the SVG encoded in the background there. And so in order to just overlay that background, we just give it a higher Z index, and you're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. Anything else overly complex in there? Yeah, I want to say that's everything.
Yeah.
Now before we wrap, I did want to go back. We actually got another question this week from Jason on Twitter. He was asking, have you done or thought about doing a session on best practices for accessibility with UI animation regarding hidden disabilities? I asked for a little clarification, like vestibular disorder or something like that. He said, yeah, vestibular disorder or a hidden disability like ADHD. Do you have any typical approaches, or do you even make those considerations when you're building an animation, David?
Sure. So there is a media query. I think it's only in Safari. It's called prefers reduced motion. Actually, yes. Let me see if
there is a CSS Tricks article that I have queued up here that I've shared in the chat, called An Introduction to the Reduced Motion Media Query, and it gives you that simple toggle there.
Right, and I believe that Chrome has implemented it as well, or at least I really hope so.
They might have.
Yeah, using this media query, you could pretty easily toggle off all of the animations and all of the transitions, and you could fall back to a more static experience. And this helps especially if you have a vestibular disorder, or if you have ADHD, or even, epilepsy is a concern as well. There's many things that could happen, to people that they would prefer not to have those animations going on.
And also saving battery life as well on devices.
I wish someone wrote an article on this, but there's a whole bunch of accessibility practices where, even though it doesn't seem applicable to, I guess, to able-bodied people, or just the majority of the population, it affects us in more ways than we might think. For example, have you ever been on like a checkout form or just any sort of complex web form where you tried to tap through and either the tab order was unpredictable, or you just couldn't tap through, or autocomplete didn't work, or just any of these little things that just ruin your day because you're like a power keyboard user and those things aren't working? Believe it or not, that is an accessibility concern, and it's one that affects normal people like, you and me.
Yeah, and so I've done a little example right now. I've got the media query commented out because I don't actually have the prefers reduced motion on my system. But at the very bottom here, I've just got the star selector with the pseudo elements as well. I've set speed to 0 because we're using that variable to do our scroll animation, which we wouldn't want in the case of someone with a vestibular disorder or anything like that. That could definitely be disorienting. And then all of our hover states and everything like that, and the transition state, it's all instant, which in terms of like trying to understand the UI and how things are layered, that it's not as great of an experience. But if you do have some kind of disorder, that can really help you just be able to use the site. So I'll leave that media query in there if you wanna check that out. There are plenty of other great resources out there. I don't think either of us are technically accessibility experts, but this is just some of the techniques we've picked up along the way.
Right.
And since not every device supports that media query, not every browser supports that yet either, when in doubt, add some kind of toggle that lets people choose the kind of experience they need, especially if you anticipate targeting a large audience of people with disorders. Like if you're building a site for the elderly or a ADHD awareness site, those would obviously be instances where you'd really want to cater to that audience.
Right.
And
how did you do that? You just typed X divider and that worked?
I have a few snippets. Don't worry about it.
Okay, you're gonna have to show me those one day. That was crazy black magic right there.
Yeah, text expansion is a very, very good thing to have in your development work.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's all for now. Shall we bring this to a close, David?
Let's bring it to a close.
All right.
No overtime.
Oh, we didn't do many soccer puns. That's
we got rid of them all early.
Yeah, I'm kicking myself. With that, you've been watching Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. If you've enjoyed this episode and would like to see more from David and I, there are many ways you can support us, such as subscribing and participating in the live streams every Thursday at twitch.tv/keyframers. You can also like and subscribe at youtube.com/keyframers, where we have all of our archives and past videos. Definitely worth checking out. You can tweet at us and spread the word at twitter.com/keyframers. Or you can pledge to support us at patreon.com/keyframers.
Yeah, and we do accept submissions for future episodes, so tweet at Keyframers with any animations that you would like to see made, especially if they fit some cool thing like, the World Cup starting. Also, I was just corrected. It's extra time, not overtime. Apparently, I've been watching too much basketball, too. You can present questions or challenges to us so that we'll try to answer them on air, such as, what are the correct soccer terms that I should use?
That's right. Well, and with that, thank you all so much for joining us. Until next week, keep animating and go!